Hey, Thor, 3. Let's get into murder.
Welcome back to 8-Bit Critique. I'm Captain Paul. This is Fajardo, and our co-host Goon is currently out with COVID. How you doing there, Fajardo?
I'm doing well.
So let's get right into it. This is like I said, we're going to try to switch it up a little bit on the channel. We're going to still do a lot of music, a lot of comedy and stuff like that, but we also kind of want to diversify ourselves and allow ourselves to react to whatever is going on in the world. Aaron Rodgers recently went on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he talked about an old college professor. You're not much of a real football fan, right?
I don't follow people and know what underwear they're wearing. No, I don't.
Okay, so let's get right into it. And college professor told no way in hell he'd play in the NFL. That's interesting. All right, let's get into it.
When you were a kid and you were playing football, what was the attitude about playing in the NFL? Was it that this was a pipe dream? Was something that was realistic because you were talented? Like, how did people approach that?
I was on a spring break trip with a buddy of mine, I remember, and yes, we were 15 hours in a 15-passenger van going down to Mexico doing some like humanitarian work down there. That was how I'd spent my sophomore year, and I remember you're talking about who knows what, because back then you might have had a Walkman, but other than that, you didn't have any technology. And my buddy said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to play in the NFL. He's like, yeah, right. You'll never make it.
You should call that dude up every month.
But it was a pipe dream. It was a dream, for sure, but a pipe dream. And one of my favorite stories about somebody who didn't believe in me was I had this teacher at Cal. And I wrote this paper in a food appreciation class. That was the class, food appreciation.
I could go to that class.
And there was like 15 kids on the team in that class. Class of like, let's say 120 people, right? And I wrote a paper, and she said I cited incorrectly. So we had these breakout classes. Of the 120, there'd be like 6 breakout classes of 20. So I'm like...
Okay, so I'm going to kind of pause it here. So, quick question. Have you had to do citations with papers and stuff like that? Mm-hmm. With college stuff like that? We can.
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree with me. Sometimes, man, with certain professors...
It was never good enough.
Yeah, it was never good enough. Regardless of... Even if you followed, professional standards, right, for citation.
You could have handed them their own paper, and they would have been like, yeah, this is not good. Like, bro, stop.
It's just... And it's just kind of funny in a way, right? And I think the interesting thing here is that, we've all had those friends, right, with our careers. Oh, no way in hell you're going to do that. No way in hell in that. And then it's funny, like, down the road when you actually accomplish it, you're like, yeah, I guess I did make it. But I feel like with college professors, man, sometimes they can be a little bit, I don't know if it's like a power trip, but it's just like, I feel like they make things way too complicated than it really needs to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh, you didn't put this comma or this semicolon here for this citation. It's just like, enough. Like, I'm giving you what you need. Let's calm down here.
I mean, I think a lot of college professors are good in that aspect where they make it difficult and they're never satisfied because, let's face it, in reality, right, even if you have a job, even if you're good at your job, there's always someone who's not going to be happy with your work. And
that's true.
I think it teaches you to learn to be accepting of not being able to please everybody, even someone who may be a figure that you have to look up to or a person that you need approval from.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
No, and that's a fair point. I don't know. I feel like my own personal experience, I had a situation with a professor where she was just being overly ridiculous. And I'm like, listen, I'm here to learn how to steer boats. I'm not here for an English major. Like, let's calm down.
Mm-hmm. Listen, I get it. I 100% get it. You know what I mean? But I think that the way you just said it, again, it's one of those things that you want a participation trophy. You know what I'm saying? Like, they got to be hard on you. Because if they're not hard on you, then you're not really ready for the real world. And if the way that things are going now, right? Kids don't really get that, denial or that, hey, no, this is not good enough or whatever earlier in their life. Early in their life nowadays, kids are like, oh, it's okay if you came in last. Here's a trophy. Like, fuck out of here. Listen.
No, I'm not really speaking from a participation trophy thing. I just feel.
I'm
but
just
I
giving you the example on why I think that them being so difficult is actually probably one of the more important steps in college.
I think being difficult is fine, but being like overly the top, like this one teacher, this one professor, I should say, was like, okay, like I get it, you want to impose your will. Let's keep going.
My class of 20.
Oh, sorry. Go.
Oh no, I was agreeing. Yeah, it happens. Sometimes you're just so pleasing in somebody.
Let's say 15. It was like 3/4. So 15 of the kids didn't cite it exactly how she said. 14 of them got to rewrite the paper. Not me. So I said, okay, I'm gonna go see her at her hours, right? So at Cal, we had practice at 2:00, so you had to be up top at the football facility at 2:00. So I told my quarterback coach, I'm gonna be late this day. I got to go to this teacher's hours, which start at 2:00. So I went to her office, and she was ready for me. She had my paper out. I said, look, I'm not asking for a special privilege here, but the other 14 kids who got an F on the paper got to rewrite the paper, and I didn't. And she ripped me apart. You are an entitled athlete. You expect things to be given to you. What are you going to do with your life? I said, I'm going to play in the NFL. She said, no way in hell.
No way in hell.
You won't make it. You'll get hurt. You'll never make it. Whoa. You will need your education, and you will never make it. And what I've seen from you is you won't amount to anything.
Oh, my God.
And I said,
Oof.
watch it.
Well,
What a terrible thing to say to a kid.
that's awful, man. Like that's legitimately awful. I know he's a grown man now, and he doesn't seem like he really gave a shit at the time. But I mean, to say that, that's where I think professors kind of overstep their boundaries, in my opinion. Where it's like, keep it professional. Don't take it to a personal level like that. Like unless they're truly like they're not showing up to class for days and days and days, or you know what I mean. I get maybe having a hard conversation, but I don't know. I don't know if that level of disrespect was needed.
I guess maybe not. It's tough, man, because it all depends on how the student handles it and how they take it in and what role it plays in their mind, right? So for someone, obviously this is hindsight, so it's 2020, right? It's like, oh, she's crazy for even saying that. But maybe when he was a kid, they weren't, maybe if you looked at him and you were like, oh, no, he's not going to make it. It was one of those guys, and you wanted to kick in a realistic possibility that, hey, you may not make it. And since he was so high on his horse, maybe, not necessarily like being, like, oh, how you call it, cocky about it, but high on his horse, like, this is what I'm going to do. Like, she wanted maybe to, knock him off for a second and be like, what happens if you don't? You know what I mean? But since you can't have that conversation with him because of how he was feeling, maybe you should try to go an extreme route just to see, if he's going to go. Maybe it propelled him. Maybe it pushed him to, okay, you're another one, a non-believer? All right, I'm going to do this to make you believe.
I mean, yeah, no, that's a fair point. I just think that some people will I personally, I'm one of those people that's like, oh well, fuck you, and I'll just use that as a motivation. But some people that could tear them down. Depends on the personality as well. Some people will get overwhelmed with that and probably get into self-doubt and maybe not be able to pull themselves out of it. So I feel like it's more down to the individual itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. It's always going to come down to the individual. It's one of those things that it's very difficult to judge from the outside looking in on any. It doesn't matter who it is, whether it's you, me, whether it's Goon, whether it's that person. Even you never know how someone's going to take something, right? You can always assume, but that doesn't necessarily mean you know exactly how they're going to take it.
Yeah, no, that's true. Let's get right into it.
Kid, big props to that food appreciation teacher at Cal for trying to ruin, my life and my dreams, and you just gave me some ammo.
But what a just irresponsible way to communicate with someone who's young and has their whole life ahead of them. But then again, that's part of the problem, is that people don't have their whole life ahead of them anymore. And then they see people coming up and they get upset. They're upset by people that they deem to be privileged, or they deem to have a better place in life than they had.
The crazy thing is, I was probably the best athlete student in that class, and the one who was actually trying to take it seriously.
So she specifically singled you out just
Yep.
because you're an athlete and
Yeah.
didn't allow you to. So she wanted to damage your grades.
The best part is, so I'm late to my QB meeting, and I have a meeting after practice that day with the liaison. He was, I don't know what his exact title was, but he was liaison between the players and the school, basically. And I said, hey, look, here's what happened. I went in this office. I told the whole story. I was trying to get the same treatment as the other 14 kids who got to rewrite the paper, and she kind of ripped my ass and was a little derogatory. I didn't think that was, fair or appropriate. They brought some heat down on her, so she had a vendetta against me. At the end of the semester, she wrote up a 3-page paper trying to get me expelled from campus. I had to go in front of the Judicial Affairs Board at Cal in some kangaroo court, and ended up having to write, it was 2 options. 1, expulsion, or 2, I could write an apology letter to this teacher. She made up all this crazy shit. I was late to class every day. I was disruptive. I literally was on time every day, sat in the middle of the row, and was probably one of the only football players actually taking notes and paying attention.
So she just lied.
Yeah.
Wow. Maybe she had a thing with football players. It's so sad that there's people like that out there.
But that's social. Isn't that social media to an extent now?
Yes.
It's people who are upset and bitter and
Right.
want to be offended by something, and so they'll do anything to make themselves feel better. If I can put somebody down, if I can rip somebody apart, if I can find somebody offended about, and then
Yeah.
away we go.
That's that old expression, right? Hurt people, hurt people.
Yeah.
She's a damaged lady, and she decided to take it out on you.
Took it out on the wrong person, though.
I bet she took it out on a lot of people that were
She
the right
probably did.
person.
Yeah,
She's
she
probably
probably
pretty
did.
effective with those tactics.
It's like, hey, lady,
Yeah.
you're teaching a fucking food appreciation class.
Well, there you go. There you go. He put it in the best terms possible. Lady, you're teaching a food appreciation class.
Well, I mean, let's be blunt, man. That's pretty serious, right? When you kind of make up false accusations,
Right.
and that I feel like professors at times, I've kind of had to deal with this on some level, where you go in front of a board or something that didn't happen, right? And then you have to unfortunately, since it is a kangaroo court, it's you're guilty until you're proven innocent.
Yep.
And you have to prove okay, this, or this. And it's just, it's absurd sometimes how much power these professors have. And listen, I wasn't there with Aaron. I don't know if he was truly, it's obvious he's going to give it a story in light where he's more positive. But even if half of what he's saying is true, I think that far exceeds what is necessary as a professor. Just let people kind of do their studies. Some people are going to take your class serious. Some people aren't. If it's not within their major, like a culinary arts thing, they're not going to take you as seriously. You have to understand that going into your profession, that some people will really appreciate your subject and some people will not. At least in my experience, I've had a lot of professors that were really solid, but I've had some few that really turned me off on the subject as a whole. And it just seems like, from this story, from his perspective, it seems like a power-tripping professor that had an axe to grind.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. Well, let's see what else he says.
What do you learn in food appreciation?
Yeah.
Is it just appreciation of different culinary styles? What are you learning?
Couldn't tell you. Nothing stuck with me.
Except her attitude. Yeah, that's unfortunate, man. That's there's a lot of people like that, and some of them they ruin lives, and some of them they just give people fuel. They give people anger and
Exactly what I just
determination
said.
to prove that person wrong.
Yeah, but the shit part is, like you said, for me, it made me just work that much harder because I'm another person that I can prove wrong.
Yeah.
But for people not as mentally tough or more easily offended or hurt by something like that. I mean, it's possible, like you said, that she could have, been detrimental to other people. Why? Because you have some tiny position of power.
Yeah.
And you have some sort of vendetta against, the world that you're teaching a food appreciation class?
Yeah, the power. That's the big one, right? The fact that she had that ability. That is so intoxicating for people when they have control over folks.
I mean, that's facts right there, man.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'll say this. I like Aaron Rodgers more after hearing him talk. You know what I mean? Kind of, I feel like when you get snippets from, like, other shows on, like, media shows like First Take or Undisputed, and you get, like, clips and you don't let him flesh out the arguments, you're going to have a far more negative view of Aaron Rodgers. But I don't know. A lot of the things I've listened to when he actually speaks on the subject in totality, it's he seems like a relatively reasonable dude. I'm not going to say I agree with every standpoint he has, but,
He's well-spoken. He looks like, well, from the things I've heard, he seems to speak out of knowledge, right? Like, whatever he's talking about, he did his homework, his version of homework. He's very confident and very cool and collected. He's even, like, when he did his homework, he even listened to the other side, which is what lets him be cool and collective when he speaks. Mm-hmm. And, that's accreditation to him. Now, we normally do rate videos here, right?
Mm-hmm.
From 1 to 10, how honest do you think that entire thing was? Like, how accurate do you think it was? Obviously, 10 being 100% accurate, or 1 being, my man is full of shit.
I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10 on the true scale, because I think the problem with Rodgers is that there's been cases like with the vaccination stuff. He didn't really lie about it. He just said he's immunized. But he was kind of misleading, right? So he never technically lied. And that's where the media gets wrong. He didn't lie. He really didn't lie. He just kind of didn't tell you what he did. He did more of a holistic way of COVID treatment. But so I think Aaron Rodgers has that aspect in him where he'll kind of twist a story in a certain way. But, overall, I think from what I've seen, he's generally pretty honest. But he'll always put his spin. So I'll give like a 7.5 out of 10. What about you?
I give him a 6.
Oof.
I think maybe the moral of the story was correct.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that he said it, I mean, first of all like 14 of your teammates are in the class. We all listen. Obviously, you and I have both been, jocks or whatever you want to call it in a school system. And let's face it, when you take a class with your teammates, 9 out of 10 times, you're not really paying attention to class, especially in high school.
Especially college. Well, in college even it can be worse.
Right. So in high school, you definitely don't pay attention. In college, I mean, you may pay a little bit of attention, but it's still pretty much the same thing. Like, you'll pay a little bit of attention because even if you're not doing well and you're not paying attention in class, what does every team do? They get you tutors, right? And you're always going to find a way to pass. They're always going to help you out. So even if you're in the class, and I'm not saying it's right, and I'm not saying, oh, this is the way to go, but it's the truth. If you're a good enough player that they want you on the team, they'll get you a tutor. 100%.
That's true. I mean, I get where you're coming from. I think maybe I should dock it down to 7, but yeah, it's just like, when he said the note stuff, I'm like, okay, come on. Like, let's be real. Like, I wouldn't have taken notes in a fucking food appreciation class. Let's be real. Like, I wouldn't give a fuck. I'm actually, like, I'm a pretty studious person. I usually take notes for classes that are important. I will say the biggest crutch I've had throughout my life is I have a really good memory. So I retain a lot of information. So I never really had to study super, super hard. Mm-hmm. But Yeah, I could see where you're coming from. So what would you rate this on the truth scale out of 1 out of 10? Do you think he's telling the truth? Do you think he's a little bit embellishment, or you think he's just lying about this story altogether? Let us know your thoughts down below in the comment section. If there's other videos you want us to react to, please put them down in the comment section as well. I am Captain Paul. That is Fajardo1BW.
Hold up. If you're the teacher that went through that whole thing, you tell us your side of the story. Let us know. We'll invite you to the show. You can say your part. Just saying, just throwing that out there for you.
That's true. Teachers, how much do you hate your kids? So Goon the Bearded's on COVID leave, so prayers up to Goon, and we'll see you in the next episode. Peace.
Peace.